Hello, good morning, everyone. Good morning. If this is your first time watching one of my videos, my name is Joanna Daniel, and I found Wounds to Scars. I work with adult survivors of childhood trauma and women who experience abuse, and I do that through conferences, retreats, and courses. We are just getting ready for our autumn retreat, rather, that is November 26th to 28th. That's this Thursday, and we're going to be in gorgeous, beautiful Scotland at a health retreat. So, I want to talk this morning about abuse in faith communities, as you see from the title, because there is something that happened over the weekend and a video that's been on social media from yesterday where a pastor from the Greater New York Conference of Seventh-day Adventist Churches, in his sermon on the weekend, said, and I should put a trigger warning on this video, and I'll do it after that. He made a statement. I don't know if it was a family life, day or sermon or whatever, but he was preaching on submission. And if you're familiar with this kind of sermons, you know they only have one path. Wives, submit yourselves unto your husbands and as unto God, etc., etc. There was nothing new there. It was the same thing. I'm just checking my sound over on Facebook. It was the same thing. There was nothing new there. But he went on further to say that women, you are owned by your husbands. And because you're owned by your husbands, he went on to explain a little bit about what that meant. Okay, it's there. He went on to explain a little bit about what that meant. So he talked about a woman somewhere in the US, perhaps, who sued her husband for rape. And according to him, marital rape is impossible because women are owned by their husbands, and so it can't be. And then he said, men, if you're going to rape anyone, rape your wife. I didn't think it could get any worse, but he did. He went there. And so there's a lot happening on, I don't know, there was a petition started apparently to get him to step down, to resign. I wrote an email to the conference highlighting the training need and similar sentiments. And so I'm sure many other people must have written to the church and his employers to say this is not permissible. And so a statement came out yesterday that I saw this morning because I'm in the UK. So I woke up to a statement that says he apologized, the church apologized, and he's an administrative leave. And administrative leave, I'm sure people get paid when they're on administrative leave. And though I appreciate the sentiment behind the apology and the statement, it needs to go a little bit further. And so I'm here to talk through that a little bit because a couple things concern me. A couple things concern me with this. Now, I've been working with women who experience abuse a long time, long before, I was posting anything on social media or anything like that. And in my retreats, sit and listen to and hold space with women who experience abuse. I know the prevalence of religious abuse, of abuse in faith communities. I know how people suffer and give up on God. So, as far as I'm concerned, this is also a salvation issue. But here's why I'm also concerned and why apology is not enough. Before I go there as well, I wanted to talk a little bit about this is difficult. I know this is difficult. I know this is difficult for the church. I know this is difficult for the gentleman that says what he says. And it's difficult for the women who had to sit and listen, knowing that they experienced that maybe last night, and maybe when they go home, they know they might. It's difficult for everybody for different reasons. I am okay with difficult conversations. And so if you're the church and your leadership and you're listening, stay with me. One of the things I offer when I'm doing work like this, when I was practice teaching and training social workers, I offer that you can't say anything wrong. As far as I'm concerned, nothing's wrong. I offer that to a room full of people whenever I do my training on cultural competency, as I teach my not so melanated colleagues how to work with ethnic minorities and minority communities, right? Because I know it's an issue. I know we struggle. So I offer this space where nothing's wrong as long as we can work through it, then that's okay. But here's why I'm concerned about this and why the apology is not enough. Because Black women, this is a pastor from America, from the US. In the US, Black women are twice more likely to die from domestic abuse than anything else. It's the second leading cause of death for Black women in America, second. I think it's fourth for Indigenous women and seventh for white women. It's urgent. It's the second leading cause of death. This pastor was a Black man, and that shouldn't make a difference, but it does in light of the statistics. Saying to other men that perhaps look to him for leadership and look up to him for mentoring and look up to him for guidance and look up to him for a model of who they should be, that it's okay for you to rape your wife. And that's why that's an issue. As a Black woman that work with other Black women, as a Black woman who know that our voices are not as heard and not listened to. It's not, sometimes we need to bend all kind of shapes because it's not palatable enough. We're not included in conversation and policy changes. And that's why for me, it's really important that we speak out. When I spoke to the group of women that we run a group for survivors of domestic abuse and sexual abuse, two different separate groups run by myself and qualified counselors. When I spoke to them about this and when they saw it, everyone was triggered, all Black women. And so that's why for me, an apology can't be enough. It has to go further. And this is what will demonstrate to me that the church is listening, that the church has not become so tone deaf to the members that they will roll ahead and ignore, because they've ignored so many other things. And I'm hoping this is not something that's going to be ignored. So here is why it's not enough again. And I'm going to read a scripture. I'm going to read Luke. Let me just find it because I'm going to read it for you so that I don't misquote. I'm going to read Luke 6, verse 49. It says, but he that, no, Luke 6, 42, 45. A good man out of the good measures, treasures of his heart, though bringeth forth which is good, and an evil man out of the evil treasures of his heart, bringeth forth that which is evil. For out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. I'm not calling this gentleman evil by any stretch of the imagination. However, what I want to highlight, the treasures of the heart. And that's where we need to address the treasures of the heart. And that's why an apology is not enough, because an apology don't change the treasures of the heart. It doesn't uproot it and plant new treasures. An apology won't do that. An apology says, oops, I am so sorry that my fruits are showing. The deeper work is to address the root of that, because that's not the root. A deeper work is to address the root of that. And that's why I shared about the safe spaces that I hold for people in leadership to acknowledge and to work through without judgment or criticism the things that are harmful to the people that they serve. And so I know that it's not easy to apologize. I know it's not easy to acknowledge when we're wrong. I know it's not easy for that mindset shift to happen, for us to create change that is going to be so different, so revolutionary that it will change us. And we're not just doing it because we want to keep our jobs. We're not just doing it because we want to appease. We're not just doing it and go away in the background for a little bit, and then we reappear with the same sentiments, the same root, and the same fruit will come as a result. We might be a little bit more cautious, but it won't create change. And it's people who are, it takes courage to dig for the root of belief systems like that. It really takes courage to dig for the root of that, because that came from somewhere. And we need to investigate, where did that come from? And how far reaching? And he might never be able to get to as far reaching as his message has gotten to, and the many people that it's hurt, both in the in the men that look up to him for leadership and have followed his guidance, and for the women who have been hurt by that. So it takes courage to do that. A couple weeks ago, I got a text message from someone saying, can you please address this? Because it's an issue in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. I know it's an issue in faith communities in general, but this one was specific. And it talked about a woman who suffered for 30 years abuse because at church they told her that she should forgive, that she should just move on, that she should just do, all the things that in faith communities we tell women that they should just do. And so she wanted this to be addressed because there was so much pain. There was a long post on Facebook, and you could hear the pain in the words. And there were many people that resonated with. And that's why this is a challenge for leadership. That's why it's a challenge for us to train people we're talking about abuse more now than we used to before. We lived through a pandemic, and we know how horrendous that was in terms of abuse for women who experience abuse, for children who experience abuse, for people who experience abuse. It was horrendous. And so that's why in 2021, a statement like that is so damaging. It would have been damaging in any year, any age, but particularly the time that we're living in, because of the horrific suffering and pain that people have been enduring. And so while we're in this season of making statements and apologies, here is what I would like the Greater New York Conference to do, as well as that. And maybe you're on it. Maybe you're not challenged by it. Maybe you're not fazed by it, and you're happy to do it. And I want to encourage you watching from faith communities to do it as well in your setting, to be honest, do honest soul searching. That's what it will take to go, where did that root come from? They've identified it. Now go do honest soul searching. And you can't do it on your own. If you said you can do it on your own and you want to do it on your own, that's not honest, because we don't know what we don't know, and we can't see what we can't see, what we don't know how to identify. And so we need somebody who is skilled, who is trained, who've done this work for a long time, to be able to help you to reflect safely and honestly and hold you to account. And then we need vulnerability. I messed up. I was wrong. I did that wrong. I didn't only say it wrong, it was a wrong thing to say. And because this is the root that I've identified, I can now acknowledge. And I think a vulnerable leader is a powerful leader, because when you can be vulnerable and when you can own up to your wrong, that is powerful, because it will get people to know that they can trust you. Because you can go back to preaching, but you won't be trusted. And you can go back to teaching and leadership, but you won't be trusted by many, even the ones who act nice to you, because they like what they get from being associated with you. And even the ones that fear you, it doesn't mean trust. I know that there are personalities that don't mind fear versus trust, but I'm hoping that this is going to reach the minds and the hearts of the people who are prepared and willing to do honest soul searching, to be vulnerable, to access the treasures of the heart. Like, I didn't know that was in my heart. Where did it come from? I don't like that that's in my heart, because we don't know everything about ourselves. Sometimes people feed things back to us. We sit with it. We look at it. We see how does it line up with what other people say. Is it true? Because sometimes feedback is not always true and honest, and it's not coming from a good place. And so we have to examine feedback. Is it true? Is it honest? But when we do that, if we recognize that it is true, and I know the Holy Spirit will guide this process, if we recognize that it is true, then we can begin to do something about it. And the last thing, it takes humility. It takes humility to accept, to do honest soul searching, to be vulnerable and say, put your hand up, and humility to say, I need help. Help me. And to stay with the process that's going to help. Anything else, anything other than that is dismissive. It's dismissive of women who experience abuse. I know often, especially from my faith community, if you speak up against leadership, or if you say anything that might be perceived to be against leadership, you're put in this category of people who are attacking, of people who are not a team player, of people who are seen as against, and it's taken in a way that is not humility. It's not humble. It's not honest. It's projecting off of blame and projecting. And so I know the risk that I've run in doing this. And I know also, as I said earlier in this video, it has to come from certain people for it to be accepted. Now, I serve people who are hurting. I serve women who experience abuse. And that's why I'm here doing this video. If you listen to this and you know that your community could do with some change, reach out. I'm happy to come and to work with in a safe space, because we have to admit that as Christians, we're not without sin. We're not without, we're not without the ability to make mistakes. We're not without the power to hurt other people. We can't live in this bubble that assume that because we're Christians that we never do anything wrong and we never hurt our brother. And that though an apology is good and forgiveness is good, that oftentimes there's a deeper work that needs to happen, because when that doesn't happen, then we go on to hurt. We continue to hurt people. And so in that respect, there's a deeper work that needs to happen, as we read in Luke 6, verse 45, that we need to go access the treasures of the heart. We need to dig those treasures up, and we need to look at them, and we need to investigate them. We need to be honest about what we see. We need to be honest about the root of those treasures, and we need to begin to plant new treasures that will build a bridge to the people who feel that there's no hope, that Christianity is not palatable, that God is abusive, that religion is harmful. And so that's our responsibility of people in the faith community, to be able to be honest and to do that kind of work, so that that message can change, because we've done great harm. And so it's us. We have to do the work to create that change. I hope you're ready to do that. As I said, if you are listening from faith community, you're in leadership, you have access to leadership, share this video with them, because it might be something for communities and committees to sit with, to see how do we make sure that this doesn't happen in our neck of the woods, in among the people that we are called to shepherd, that we are called to serve. Because we know the story of the lost sheep, how Jesus went after the 99 were safe, and he went after the one. If this video harmed one woman, it would be worthy. It would be worthy of the deep work of even this investigating what is in the heart, where those come from, and to be able to address that and to create change. So that's what I wanted to share with you. I'm busy in preparation of my autumn retreat, and so I'm gonna go back to that, but I hope that you'll have an amazing day. Take care.